morning, everyone. We come to you from Los Angeles, California with attorneys Longzi Liu and Abe Odabachian. Attorney Liu is a well-known attorney from the Chinese community. He's been involved in lawsuits against Jimmy Kimmel, Alibaba, and as of right now, he is the most vocal voice in the Chinese community opposing ACA5. So today we sit down in Los Angeles with Attorney Liu and Abe, and we talk to them about ACA5 and where they want to go with it and how they want to proceed in challenging it in the courts against the state of California. So, David, what is the ACA5?
Well, ACA5 is nothing but discrimination based on race. Basically, what ACA5 is that it allows government or the government agencies in California to give better treatments to certain minorities. So on its face, it's discrimination. In addition, it's not only discrimination against certain races, it's discrimination against all races. For the simple reason, actually, it goes against the idea what Martin Luther King has preached. So, which is, I'll have Abe to be specific on that.
Yeah, Martin Luther King, in his famous speech, stated, "I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed." And I quote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal." And that's exactly what Mr. Liu and I have been really focused on in the passage of this ACA5, in that this proposition does not live up to the meaning that Martin Luther King stated, that all men are created equal. In fact, it shows that all men are not created equal. And just recently on this point, Chief Justice John Roberts, in a case called Parents Involved in Community Schools v. Seattle School District, stated that the way to stop discrimination on the basis of race is to stop discriminating on the basis of race. And this is exactly what Attorney Liu and I have been standing for. This is a proposition that's going to be creating discrimination by allowing these schools to discriminate.
I see, yeah. It's very interesting that the California legislature would move at a time for a bill that takes out anti-discrimination language for the Constitution, and a lot of different people are concerned about that. But David, if I could call you that, how, being a leader in the Chinese community, how do you think it will affect the Chinese American community specifically if this bill is passed?
Well, for starters, I mean, the educational aspect of the law is that it allows government agencies to discriminate based on education, employment, and business. Especially for Chinese people living in America. For us, for Chinese people, the priority is the education of our children. Actually, which I think is the most common reason why a lot of people would come to the States. You know, actually, a lot of us, I would say that had a pretty good life overseas, whether, you know, from Taiwan, from China, you know, from other parts of the world. And we came to the States for the education of our children. You know, basically what this law does is that if you're Chinese and you will be discriminated against because you will be competing with other Chinese people. You know, simply put, right now for UCLA and UC Berkeley, I think the Chinese students will make up either 50% or close to 50% of the student population. I mean, after this law passes, and that 50% will be decreased to 15%, meaning that 2/3 of Chinese students will not be able to attend schools like UCLA and UC Berkeley. I mean, obviously, it's not only just a slap on the face, you know, not only it's discriminatory on its face, actually, you would have very severe impact on Chinese community for the simple reason that our children, at least 2/3 of them, which could have gone to schools like UC or UC Berkeley, now they won't be able to, you know? So not only that, obviously, yes, certainly the idea of ACA5 is a slap not on the face of Chinese people in America or Chinese Americans, but also on U.S. Constitution and California Constitution, which both of which would have equal protection clause in it for U.S. Constitution, the 5th Amendment, for California Constitution, the 14th Amendment, both of which say that you cannot discriminate based on race. That's exactly what ACA5 is. That's discrimination on race. So it's not only unjust, discriminatory, but to be precise, it's illegal because it goes against the very idea of both the U.S. Constitution and the California Constitution. And from as a Chinese person, so for Chinese people, the top priority when you go buy a house is nothing but school district, because we value as part of the culture, we value the education of our children or the success of our children over anything else, over how close it is to the beach, over if the house has a nice view, over if it's a good deal to buy this house, because none of those matters when it comes to the education of our children. So by passing ACA5, it totally destroys all the effort, all the money, all the energy we have put into in making our children successful.
Yeah, it's very understanding to see a community whose entire culture is based on getting educated and scholastic success, and seeing the chance that if a bill is passed, more than half of their community might be excluded from a school they might have otherwise been able to get into. It's very understandable to see. So, how do you think ACA5 works within the civil rights movement? Is it good for it? Is it bad for it? Or what is your opinion on that?
Well, ACA5 undoubtedly is a big step, not forward, but backwards. Actually, many years ago, Martin Luther King has already said, that someday, when my 4 children, grew up, they will be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. But it seems like we're still being judged many years later by the color of our skin. So this is not just discrimination against certain races, say a Chinese or Jewish or white, but also it's discrimination against other races as well. I think it's discrimination against African Americans and also discrimination against the Hispanic Americans. Basically, it sends a message saying that we're not just that good enough. That's why we need extra points to be able to compete with people from other races. It's the same idea as that I go play basketball. Say that I play a ball basketball game at a gym. Someone says to me, you know what, Long, because you're Chinese, that's why I'm going to give you a head start.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
So so that actually I would not take that as a compliment. I would take that as insult.
Yeah, I can see. It's certainly an interesting position that they're taking on that. Abe, this is for you. So, what do you think the California voters will do when they're presented with ACA5? Do you think they'll be mostly in support, against? Where do you see this going?
Well, we can see the trend. Well, the trend, we can go back to May with the George Floyd protests. Everybody's out protesting for affirmative action, civil rights, awareness. And then soon enough, we started having different movements amongst our city. We started having, at first, get rid of the police, abolish police in certain cities in the states. Then here in Los Angeles, Mayor Eric Garcetti came out with a defunding of about $150 million out of LAPD. Now we're hearing similar situation is among the LA County Sheriff's Department as well, and in other cities across the states as well. So this is a movement going on, and the ACA5 is part of this movement. And how I see this going is most likely it will pass. Now, just because a matter will pass does not necessarily mean it is correct. That is exactly what Attorney Liu is really talking about, that this is something that is going contrary to the Constitution of the United States and in California. And that is why, as attorneys, we bring it to the attention of others, and we later, if needed, bring it to the court's awareness that this is going in violation to the fundamental rights listed in our Constitution. So what I see happening is I feel like this trend will be continuing, that people right now believe that as a result of what happened in May, that people must step forward and do more to really supplement this situation. And that is why I believe that the people will vote for it.
So, do you guys believe that you hold a position from the perspective of a silent majority who is not heard of in society and not having their problems dealt with? And if so, if the silent majority is silent, then why are you guys speaking up about it?
Well, because we're the vocal minority. Yeah, you know, the other thing though is that silence actually is also a form of expression. You know, I think that silence is violence. You know, people are afraid. You know, nobody wants to lead. People want to follow, especially with all the fiasco that's going on across the states. You know, and in addition to peaceful protests, there's also a lot of violence. There's a lot of looting going on. You know, people get injured, including police officers, and people get killed. You know, I think that largely because of that, you know, people are afraid. You know, they are afraid of getting hurt. You know, they are afraid of violence, which is understandable. But precisely because most people are silent, that's why I think that me and Attorney Abraham Motobachi, you know, and you know, we will have to step up.
Yeah.
You know, we have to do what is right. You know,
Yeah.
so that's why we have like people or fictional figures like Batman. You know, when everybody else is not doing anything for whatever reason, Batman has to do something about it. Although, I mean, he, at least in the movies, he has a big house and everything.
Yeah.
You know, he has a lot of money.
Yeah.
But he figures that that's his job. It's more of his call to do something about it. You know.
Yeah.
And the other thing though is just as Batman says, with greater skills, you know, comes with greater responsibilities.
Yeah.
And I believe that, you know, me and Abraham, you know, we are very good attorneys. You know, I think we're actually better than most of the attorneys, at least we have litigated against. You know, we have to do more.
Yeah. We're lucky someone's actually taking up this issue, because it does seem like many are silent on the topic, and it's going to be voted for by the people of California, and we have almost no information about it on the mainstream. So we're lucky.
Yeah, I'd like to add one more thing, that as officers of the court, Attorney Liu and I have a duty to bring this to court if needed. If we find that this justifies a complaint against the state or whoever it may be, as officers of the officers of the court, we are obligated, we are under oath to bring it to the court's consideration, whether this violates the Constitution or not, because that is the law of the land, and that is what's going to decide whether it's legal or not. There's been many laws in this country that have been passed by legislature, but that does not make it constitutional.
Precisely. Thank you for sitting with us today and telling us, giving us information on the ACA5 and giving us some hope on maybe, there will be a good challenge to this law, because I don't think everyone agrees with it, for sure. Thank you.
Thanks.
How was it?